you a little introduction to this piece. It's called De Profundis, and today we're performing for you just a very short section of it. It's actually a much longer show, and De Profundis, as you know, is the title of a letter that Oscar Wilde wrote to his lover, Lord Alfred Douglas. And what we've taken from the letter is actually an incredibly moving description of human suffering. And so this whole series of readings is based around that theme. And it's also a big experiment with live music. Unfortunately, our composer can't be with us today because he lives in Gaul. So this is just two pieces from a much larger program that is also accompanied by live music, but we'll do our best for you. So the first piece is from The Seven Moons of Mali Almeida by Shehan Karnatilaka. The second piece is, we've spliced together two pieces of writing. Both of them are from Leonard Woolf. One is from his memoir called It's the Journey, Not the Destination, and it's taken from the chapter that deals with the death of Virginia Woolf, his wife. And the second piece that we've included here is from Village in the Jungle, which is, as you know, about Sri Lanka. And the piece we've taken from there is the death of one of the characters called Hinnihani.
The outline shifts, and the thing no longer looks like a priest in a robe. It crouches like a hound, and you see things hanging from its neck.
I have watched you on that tree, Mr. Photographer. You know that there is no order to it. You have known it always.
And suddenly the coal transforms into something familiar. Not something, perhaps more of an absence of a thing. An emptiness that stretches to the horizon. A void that has known you forever.
You feel it, do you not? That is the energy.
That hollowness and that loathing were not entirely unpleasant. Despair always begins as a snack that you nibble on when you're bored, and then becomes a meal that you have thrice a day.
Who do you blame for this mess? Was it the colonials who screwed us for centuries? Or the superpowers who are screwing us now?
There's a terrible scream from down below, and the roof splits out black shadows, which the dead priest sucks up through what looks like a large straw.
Who screwed us? The Portuguese assumed a missionary position. The Dutch took us from behind. And by the time the Brits came along, we were already on our knees with our hands behind our backs and our mouths open.
I'm glad we were colonized by the British, you say?
Better than being slaughtered by the French, says the priest. Or enslaved by the Belgians, or gassed by the Germans, or raped by the Spaniards.
Sometimes I think of the mess this country is in. I think it might be better to let the Chinese or the Japanese take us over. Let the Yanks and the Soviets own our thoughts, and let the Indians take care of our Tamil problem. Just like we let the Dutch take care of our Portuguese problem. You are now sitting in the shadows, breathing into the void. The dead priest sits across from you and whispers into the dark.
This island has always been connected. We've traded spices and gems and slaves with Rome and Persia long before history books were invented. Our people too have always been tradable. Look at today. The rich send their kids to London, the poor send their wives to Saudi. European pedophiles sun on our beaches, and Canadian refugees fund our terror. Israeli tanks kill our young, and Japanese salt poisons our food.
It is then that you realize that there's somewhere you have to be, and it is not here. And that if you stay here any longer, you will forget why you arrive. The British sell us guns and the Americans train our torturers. What chance do we have? The priest has grown muscular and crawls towards you when she speaks. Her voice doubles, trebles, and multiplies. The Brits left us with an unpolished pearl, and we have spent 40 years filling this oyster with shit. It now has a face against yours, and you are no longer sure if it is a he or a she. You feel the cold and empty roaring through you. His eyes are made from 1,000 other eyes, and her voice is 1,000 other voices. The hum at the edge of our hearing is not a she, or a him, or a they. It is cacophony. Here is the stinking truth. Take a good whiff. We have fucked it up all by ourselves.
Hindihami's extraordinary love for the deer was well known in the village and had never been approved of. At first, it was regarded merely as the folly of a mad woman. But about the time that the epidemic of fever and dysentery was decreasing, a new feeling towards them made its appearance in the village. It was started by Punchirala. That mad woman and her child, he would say, an evil woman, evil woman.
The reluctant recollection of protracted pain is peculiarly painful. The excitement in the moment of catastrophe, the day-to-day, hour-to-hour, minute-to-minute stimulus of having to act, produce an infallible anodyne for misery. I'm always astonished to find that one instantly becomes oblivious of the most acute pain if one has to concentrate on anything else, even a triviality. While one concentrates on crossing a crowded street in London, the consciousness of the torture of toothache or being crossed in love is completely obliterated. But there are no distractions or alleviation in one's recollection of misery.
My mother heard Hindihami call herself a yakini, and then comes this deer which they say they found in the jungle. Do not she-devils give birth to devils? Do village women suckle deer? Surely it is a devil born of a devil. Look at the evil that fell upon the village when it came. The crops have withered, and the old and the young have died. It has brought us want and disease and death.
Virginia's loss of control over her mind and the depression and despair which ended in her death began only a month or two before the suicide. It was around about January 25th, I think, that the first symptoms of serious mental disturbance began to show themselves.
The village soon came to believe in Punchirala's opinions. Small children were hurried away at the sight of Hindihami and the deer as they passed.
She fell into what she called a trough of despair. It was a sudden attack and it lasted 10 or 12 days.
The deer was certainly a devil who had brought misfortune on the village. Some said, at night, it went out and ate the corpses from the new graves.
There was something strange about it, for when it passed off, she said herself that she could not remember why she had been depressed.
The son of the headman suddenly died, and apparently for no cause. Then it was remembered 3 days before the child had been carrying some leaves when he met the deer and Hindihami. The deer had gone up to the child and tried to nibble the leaves, but he had snatched them away.
I did not at first realize quite how serious these symptoms were, though I at once became uneasy and took steps, which I will describe later.
The headman and the Vadarala were convinced that Hinnihami and the deer were the direct cause of the child's death. There was much talk, there was much coming and going and discussion in the headman's compound, and eventually action was decided upon. The next day, Hinnihami was collecting firewood in an old chaina. The deer was with her, feeding at a little distance from her upon the young leaves and grass. A small band of men and boys from the village had crept quietly through the jungle and were now between her and the deer.
One thing which deceived me was the suddenness of the attack.
As she looked up, the first stone was thrown. It missed its mark, but another followed and struck with a thud upon the deer's side. He bounded and ran forward.
For years I had become accustomed to watch for signs of danger in Virginia's mind, and the warning symptoms had come on slowly and unmistakably. The headache, the sleeplessness, the inability to concentrate.
Hinnihami cried and ran forward. At the sound of her voice, he stopped and looked round. A shower of stones fell about him. Thin streams of blood began to trickle down his flanks. Suddenly he plunged forward upon his head, his two forelegs broken at the knees.
We had learned that a breakdown could always be avoided if she immediately retired into a hibernation or cocoon of quiescence when the symptoms showed themselves.
Hinnihami, as she dashed forward, was caught by two men and flung back upon the ground.
The blow when it came was sudden and hard.
She fell heavily and for a moment was stunned. Then she heard the long, bleating cry of pain and saw the deer vainly trying to raise itself upon its broken legs among the jeering knot of men. She felt the blood surge up to her forehead and temples as a wave of anger came over her, and she flung herself upon the two men who barred her path. Swinging their arms wildly, they gave her blow upon her head, on her breast. Her jacket was torn into shreds, and at last she fell, exhausted.
On Friday, March 28th, I was in the garden and I thought she was in the house. But when at 1 o'clock I went to lunch, she was not there. I found the following letter on the sitting room mantelpiece.
A cheer broke from all the men.
Dearest, I want to tell you that you have given me complete happiness. No one could have done more than you have done. Please believe that. But I know that I shall never get over this, and I am wasting your life. Nothing anyone says can persuade me. You can work, and you will be much better without me. You see, I can't write this even, which shows that I am right. All I wish to say is that until this disease came on me, we were perfectly happy. It was all due to you. No one could have been so good as you have been from the very first day till now. Everyone knows that. We.
The sight of the bleeding deer and the woman lying on the ground naked to the waist seemed to send a wave of lust and cruelty through the men. They tore Hinnihami's clothes, dragged her, naked, up to the deer. Bring the Vesi to her child. Is there no milk in your breasts for him now?
When I could not find her anywhere in the house or the garden, I felt sure she had gone down to the river. I ran across the fields down to the river and almost immediately found her walking stick lying upon the bank.
Hinnihami was unhurt, but she was stunned by the violence of the anger and horror. The deer moaned from time to time. She tried to lift him with some vague idea of carrying him back to the house, but he screamed with pain at the slightest movement, and he had grown too big for her to carry. she felt that he was dying. She flung herself down by him, caressing his head, calling him not to leave her. Punchiappu, Punchiappu, she kept repeating. You must not die. Surely the God that gave you to me will save you. Punchiappu, Punchiappu, you cannot die.
I searched for some time and then went back to the house and informed the police.
Then gradually, a sense only of dull despair settled on her. She sat through the long day, unconscious of passing time. She was unaware when the deer died. She knew that he was dead now, and that with him, everything had died for her. He had come to her, a wild thing from the jungle, the god's mysterious gift. Now he was lying there, dead, his broken limbs twisted under him, the dead white eyes bulging, the tongue hanging out from the open mouth. She shuddered as she remembered the scene, shuddered as she recalled the thud of the stones and the blows. She was found by Silindu the next morning, still sitting naked by the body of the deer, her hair wet with the dew and her limbs stiff with the chill of the jungle at night. He tried in vain to rouse her. She recognized him. Let me be Apache, she kept repeating. Let me die here, for he is dead. Let me die here, Apache. Then Silindu wrapped her cloth about her and carried her in his arms to the house. She cried a little when she felt his tears fall upon her. But after that she showed no signs of grief. She lay in the house, silent, resigned to die. She had even ceased to think or feel now. Life had no more hold on her. And in the hour before dawn, in deep sleep, she allowed it to slip gently from her.
It was 3 weeks before her body was found when some children saw it floating in the river. Virginia was cremated in Brighton on Monday, April 21st. I went there by myself. I had once said to her, if there was to be music at one's cremation, it ought to be the cavatina from the B-flat quartet, opus 130 of Beethoven. There is a moment at cremations when the doors of the crematorium open and the coffin slides slowly in. There is a moment in the middle of the cavatina when a few bars of the music of incredible beauty seems to hesitate with a gentle forward pulse and motion. If played at that moment, it might seem to be gently propelling the dead into eternity of oblivion. Virginia agreed with me. When I made the arrangements for Virginia's funeral, I should have liked to arrange this, but I could not bring myself to do anything about it. The long drawn-out horror of the previous weeks had produced in me a kind of inert anesthesia. It was as if I had been so battered and beaten that I was like some hunted animal which, exhausted, can only instinctively drag itself into its hole or lair. I buried Virginia's ashes at the foot of the great elm tree on the bank of the great lawn in the garden called the Croft, which looks out over the field and the water meadows. There were 2 great elms there with boughs interlaced, which we always called Leonard and Virginia. In the first week of January, the same year, in a great gale, one of the elms was blown down.
say clear up the stage, I just want to bring the attention to the power of theatre, even in its simplest form. Just 3 actors using their voice and their expression to connect, to provoke, and you can feel moved through their words. It has the ability to change people's minds and hearts. So we just witnessed an extract of De Profundis by the Mind Adventures Theatre Company, which brings together readings of prose and poetry that are accompanied by music which has been inspired by Oscar Wilde's description of the human suffering in his famous letter titled the same. We would like to thank these amazing theatre artists, Tracy Hallsinger, Steve De La Zilba, and Sean Amarasekara, who require no introduction, for that incredibly impactful sharing. Okay, good evening everyone. Welcome to the preview of the Kolamba Kamatha Festival. It's a people's festival of dramatic arts which will be held from the 27th to the 30th of March. It will be showcasing over 22 plays and hosting a series of exciting masterclasses, panels, and demos through those 4 days. But before moving any further, I would like to take this opportunity to warmly welcome our guests in the diplomatic community, the private sector and civil society, press, fellow theatre enthusiasts, and friends. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of Madam Chandrika Bandaranayaka Kumaratunga, the chairperson of the board of BMICH and Kolamba Kamatha, the board of directors of BMICH, the Director General BMICH Manujakarya Perumal, and Deputy Director Mr. Palitha Sirimana. We warmly welcome you all. The Kolamba Kamatha Festival is an exciting, brand new trilingual festival showcasing Sri Lankan theatre in a specifically curated festival village-like venue that is both inspired by the vibrant Ed Fringe in Scotland and also the warmth of our Sri Lankan gummers. So that said, to give you a full overview of the KKF, I will introduce 2 of the women at the helm. Firstly, my friend Bimsara, a multi-award-winning actor and director in theatre, and also well-known face in television and film. She is the festival curator. And she's joined by Chanchala, who just last year co-founded the Matra Festival for the Arts, and has come aboard here as festival director. Please join me in welcoming them to share the thinking behind the festival and to take us through a sneak peek into what is to be expected in March.
Thank you Tracy Jayasinghe for bringing us through, and welcome everyone. The theatre is the greatest of all art forms, the most immediate way in which a human share with another what it is to be a human being. Coming from a very strong theatre background myself, I have been a performer since the age of 5 and have been professionally performing since the last 15, 18 years almost. And with all of that experience with me, I can very much say that this court speaks to me, and I know that it will speak to all of the artists and even the audiences that we have dealt with. So when we were looking out for vehicles and what kind of festival that we wanted to prepare and arrange, having come up with this quote, we thought that this really speaks to what and it encapsulates what we want to share with our fellow Sri Lankan audience. And with this idea of a festival, we also had a very interesting venue being available to us. Kamatha recalls the space where farmers thresh and store their paddy after harvest, a place of activity and groundedness, which we believe has a natural synergy to the act of storytelling and the passing on of our stories of everyday living and humanity through vibrant enactment and togetherness. This is the traditional definition or idea of a Kamatha. But thinking of performance and theatre, and thinking of the title Kamatha of this wonderful, vibrant, natural setting that we have available for the festival, we began to think that Kamatha is actually so much more. A traditional Kamatha is also a place where, after the paddy has been harvested, the village folk get together and they sing and they spend their evenings there exchanging stories. And at the core of theatre is also the art of storytelling and sharing and connecting and coming together as a community. So we thought, what wonderful two ideas to merge. Here we have a place called Kamatha with this wonderful, vibrant setting, very natural, very pleasing to the eye, very aesthetic, but also with these diverse spaces that are available to us, and with the idea of a festival. There have been very many festivals in Sri Lanka, and there continue to be. There are annual festivals that run, providing show and showcasing and some competitions even for and recognizing good theatre in Sri Lanka. So how is the Kamatha Festival going to be different, or how is it going to be distinct and unique? And here we came up with the idea that it is not only going to be a particular form of theatre, it is of all the different forms of theatre that we have available in this country. We have original theatre, we have classics, we have translations, we have absurd theatre, different genres, and black box theatre, and so on, mobile theatre, community theatre, forum theatre, and the list goes on. So combining all of these and showcasing at least one of each of these different forms. In all the three languages, we have the art of theatre practiced here in Sri Lanka, was what we are trying to do. But not only that, we have panel discussions, we have workshops and masterclasses, and so much more, which Chanchala is now going to touch on.
So when Madam and the BMICH gave me this really distinct opportunity, after Adam also came by and saw the work that we started in Mathura in February of last year, and gave us this great challenge to bring a dream of hers to life, which is not only has she built this dream of this space, but now to take it to the next level, for it to really be a service of the theatre. It was truly exciting, because I think one of the really distinct advantages from a festival direction standpoint is that while in Mathura there was very little infrastructure and we were really like building and trying to make something, here we had this incredible advantage that someone had such a big dream, and actually this really whole team and everyone had gathered to create this magnificent space. And so the Kolamba Kamatha becomes this two things. It's like a nexus of this dream, of this idea. And so it's like a central grounding point of 6 venues. And so these venues generally also exist separately. Each venue is distinct. They are all small and intimate, if you consider other venues in this country. But at the same time, that has range. We'll be seeing venues. I will talk to you through that. That some of these venues that are spread around, and we are at Studio right now, they'll range from 80 at our smallest to 300, and of course it's the open air theatre, so you can bring more friends and make it even more cozy. And so these are sort of big but intimate spaces. They're open to the elements, they're expansive, and then some are like this. They're places where we see also, since it was opened, only as of November 2022, because this is also such a financially accessible project that has been done, that a lot of theatre aspirants can really come and use this space to create and build. And so I'm just touching on these spaces here. So you'll have the Sinhala Kamatha, which will be the last space we'll speak today, and we'll also be gathering there. We'll be taking you to an open-air theatre at 300 packs that can sit there. The Artist Club, I think, harkens to a storied place for Sri Lankan creatives, which was the Arts Centre Club at the Lionel event. And so you may spot a bar at the end of the Artist Club, that's also tying into that. Then, of course, the studio, and then the canopy. And what's incredible is, by the time that we're launching this festival in March, we'll have a brand new theatre on this site. So you're going to also see something very much in progress. But that's so exciting. That's really come up in the last 2 months. So we'll be taking you around on that. And so how we make use of that, what do we take to build these things out and up, is what we really thought about. Not only that central point of thought that we had at that quote, but then what 4 pillars that this project will stand on.
In our program, we have tried to ensure that we have established excellence and rising talent. We have quite a few artists who have been recognized all over the world. We have an Olivier Award winner who is a Sri Lankan. We have Sri Lankan talent who is now directing, very exciting for us, who is now the director for the National Theatre in the UK. We have a lot of artists performing in theatres, in operas and so on around the world. And we have also work that continues to travel around the world, and Sri Lankan work that travels around the world and gets recognized. So finding the established excellence and rising talent and giving them a showcase, that's something that we aspired very much to do with our program. The second pillar that we leaned on was teaching, learning, and trying. A lot of theatre is about rehearsing, trying new things out, testing our boundaries, and trying to give our audiences something new, something different, something to provoke them, something for them to think about. And there are a lot of artists who do this kind of work. So we are handpicking quite a few of them and showcasing them in our program. And we are also giving them opportunity within the program to share some of that learning. So there are, like I mentioned before, lots of masterclasses, workshops, and panels, and so on. And our third pillar is that it's for everyone. It is for children, it is for adults, it is for general audiences, it is for the Tamil speaking, the English speaking, the Sinhala speaking. It is for everyone from all corners of this country, that we keep it accessible and that we include each and every one of these, every aspect of our community. That is what we are striving for. And our fourth and final pillar is that it's a scene or a place, a space to be at and just be. The vibrant energy that we are trying to create with this space, and Chanchala will speak more on some of those energies that we're bringing in. But what we're trying to create is a festival atmosphere where people not just come to watch something and go off, but they will come and spend the time here. They will come and talk about what they've seen and discuss and spend some time, spend their days, spend that whole weekend. And those are our 4 pillars.
So I think that really encapsulates the thing that we're driving towards, that this is a people's festival, that you are all welcome, that the people that are next to you, anywhere you go, are all welcome, and so we ask you to share. And this is, I must say, Madam says to make sure I mention, but there's really no idea. This is, as you can see how she's already come this far from 2022 to now. This is just the start. There will be more. So there is obviously decisions that we've done because we're on a very fast turnaround, that we're also curating. We're really trying to balance so many things, and Sarah will speak to those programming decisions, and there you're going to see lots of great names. You're going to see also people that you wish, that we want to have and that we'd like to get. And so this is really just the start of something, and we're really excited for that part. I'm going to touch on sort of the highlight points that you're going to see. 22 plays over 4 days, trilingual. That was really important because there is, I think if we, Madam may also speak to this, that the history of our collective love, I think, all of us, for the arts has come from the unifying factor that it holds. And there's also so much that I think art means you don't get stopped by language. And so we know that all audiences will find this really accessible and exciting to see something that maybe they can really understand, and then something they learn to understand through the other means. We're putting, you know, as you saw from these 3 actors, body and voice and persona online. We'll have your masterclasses and workshops and panels. We'll give the details on all of that. This is very exciting as well because we're spending 2 weekend mornings with children's theatre. And then something we felt very important is we know that theatre as a career is hard. That I know a lot of creatives, family of creatives that also had to find other professions, other ways to make a living through this. So we were trying to also make sure some of these masterclasses are talking to students, aspiring actors, aspiring creatives about how to make a livelihood or what guidance can they be given in that. And finally, we want to make it fun. If this is inspired by the Ed Fringe, one of the greatest fun things about it is this really like after hours aspect of it. And so we're going to give you 2 evenings of adult theatre. That's in Sinhala, we'll have one, and then in English, and then that's also going to be celebratory, so that's the time where you can find some wine as well. So let's get on to our selection of plays.
I'm not going to go through everything, but I'm just going to touch upon a few of the plays that we have rounded up for our program. First, I want to speak very quickly about Andere's Kamatha by Clown Compass. Clown Compass is the very first clown theatre company in Sri Lanka. It's led by Veena Jayakodi, and we are very, very excited that she is doing a commissioned piece and presenting the Kamatha venue through the eyes of the classical character Andere from Sri Lankan folk classical stories. And I don't want to divulge too much there, but this will be on the opening night. We will have Clown Compass presenting Andere's Kamatha. We also have a classical piece by Dayananda Gunawardena, which is Bakmahakunu. It is the first time that the Sri Lankan audiences saw a revolving theatre, and it's a new production of that the classical version with a new cast and so on. And we are very happy to be presenting that in the new theatre that is coming up at the Kamatha premises. Jumping across, we have Sakpalariya by Suresh Madhushan Ferreira. He's a very young actor-director, and he is also helping with stage lights and so on. He's very well known in the local theatre scene. He's an award-winning director and a playwright. He's got this very exciting story from a very young person's perspective, so that's modern theatre. We also have Kortam by Janakaraliya, which is an experimental piece. It's based on a Russian folk tale, The Dragon, and it's been translated to English and later on to Sinhala and Tamil. The Tamil version, Kortam, is presented by 2 very young theatre groups from Jaffna, the Arohana and the Shenmugam theatre companies. This was an experiment that Janakaraliya did in Jaffna some time ago. As you know, they are a mobile theatre. They travel and they set up tents and they present there. They draw communities. It's very community-driven and shared community space kind of theatre. And based on the work that they did in the north, particularly in Jaffna over a number of years, these 2 new theatre companies have come up, and it's their play, Kortam, that we will be presenting to you in our program. We also have the workshop players presenting a musical theatre evening out in the open theatre, and they will be showcasing some of their classical productions, a few songs and extracts from their productions. And we also have the Grassrooted Trust presenting what's going on, reflections on othering. This is under the after hours late night theatre section. And Sachitra Rahubadha, who is a very exciting young playwright who has won several awards, has a theatre company that has travelled around the world presenting theatre. And he is also under the after hours or late night theatre section, presenting Utpalavarna and Lakpai Trans, two plays that we are very much excited and looking forward to presenting.
Not to bite off too much of the chew, but also we're throwing in a little competitive element. So actually, before we got on board with this program, one exciting part that drew us in was that there was a short play competition that called out to many applicants, young aspiring playwrights, and 48 applicants wrote in with their short plays. And through that, 10 were selected for coaching, for script development, so that stage has gone through. And also, they've received training in directing and producing. Upcoming, in addition to that, is the seven semi-finalists that will be invited to be viewed by mentors that include Bimsara and Mr. Rajitha Dissanayake, who is in the audience right now. And then finally, at the festival, three finalists will be performing, and you all get to be there for that. So very excited to have that element in this. I think also, as Bimsara touched, I just want to kind of encapsulate this so that there are 3 plays, and some of them are done in partnerships from the children's theatre side, and then 2 really exciting pieces also for the adults only side. How we're packing all this in, by the way, from a festival director standpoint, how we've also programmed this, is you're going to have to make some choices. You can't see everything, because this is going to be like at Fringe. There's going to be a lot of going on, lots of overlapping. We've tried to also minimize that because of how tight this community and space is. So there will be an opportunity, hopefully, if you look at the schedule when it does come out, it's not out yet, for you to try to maximize everything. But there'll be a lot going on, and you have a lot to choose from.
Yes, we have, as mentioned, demos, masterclasses and panels, some of which are classical to be expected kind of masterclasses. We have great scriptwriters, playwrights with amongst us, and having them showcase and help young and aspiring playwrighs on getting their scripts done. That's something very exciting, and that we've got lined up on our program. But we also have other non-traditional type of panels and discussions. For example, we have one presentation on theatre and digital media, and how do you bridge the two, and how do you use your theatre skills, your theatre talents, and how do you reach more audiences? What are the pluses and the minuses of the two, and just expanding on this digital age, how do we get theatre across to people, and a discussion on that. That's one that I would like to pinpoint. Everything is wonderful, but this I thought I'll touch upon. And we also have a panel talking about, we have very many artists who have reached global success, but we have some of them here with us in the country at the time, and we would like to have them all in a panel and maybe share their insights on how do we take our theatre company's work global, how do we get global perspectives incorporated and their standards incorporated in our work, how do we develop and train ourselves, how do we keep abreast with the trends and changes in the world, in the theatre world rather, and so on. So that's our panels. And
before I go into that, I was just thinking, I mean, in the lineup to this, there were so many things we also talked about. Improv, I know Block and Dino in the room, and puppetry, and mask making, and all that history. So there's, again, I would say there's so much we would like to get to. So this is very much the start of that dream. In addition, though, over those 2 days, because we're starting, by the way, on the 27th of March, which is World Theatre Day, and then we're going to run all the way through the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So we're going to be very excited to work with Good Market, to do a festival market, and then also bring into that an element of showcasing craft activities, ideally also tied to theatre. I know Sonali is here from Sinhala Festival. We watch and learn a lot from each other. A lot of this work is collaborative, and so there are things that we've seen you do well. And we'd love to say that some of these ideas as well to make sure that people are learning and sharing is coming as well. So that would be an exciting part of the festival over the course of Saturday and Sunday, that you'll have these festival market and craft activities that all of you can enjoy in addition to the theatre. So there's plenty reason, whether you have a ticket or not for that day for a show, to come by. We want to go into that core pillar, theatre for everyone. And so the ticketing being accessible was, I think, something really mattered to Madam in this, and we're really excited about how we were able to do it. We're going to create a very simple as well, because this is our first go around, 3-show pass. You're going to be able to, up to you, you don't have to,